So today I have Greg from DLA Piper. He's one of the partners. Greg, welcome. I really appreciate your time today to share some legal perspective as we go through this. If you want to give a brief introduction of you and DLA, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Benny. Thanks for having me. As you said, Greg Grossman. I work in the Chicago office of DLA Piper. We're a large multinational law firm. What I do in particular is help run the emerging growth and venture capital practice in Chicago, but we cover the greater Midwest region as well. And we work with all facets of that ecosystem. You know, that's the entrepreneurs, companies, the VC investors, the corporate strategic investors, and also family offices and high net worth individuals. So all sides of the marketplace and really across all industries.
Got it. Great. Your world has been extremely busy. I mean, we talked, what, 3-4 times since COVID happened. I attended one of your webinars. You post a lot of valuable articles and things like that on LinkedIn. So we're going to keep this one really simple within the 10-minute span. So a couple questions that I wanted to ask you, Greg. One, what are the most useful parts of the stimulus package that you've seen emerging businesses successfully take advantage of?
Good question, Benny. So yeah, the stimulus package, which is now almost a couple months old, has a lot of meat to it, but there's a few points that really resonate, I think, for early and growth stage businesses. The first one, that's the historical SBA program that's always existed, is not actually part of the historical legislation. It's what's called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. You may have heard those referred to as EIDL, which is economic injury disaster loans. And that was just some emergency capital that's available to people should they need it. Again, you got to qualify sort of for small business type parameters. So some people took advantage of that very early on before the CARES Act came out. Once the CARES Act came out, obviously there's been a few aspects of that that have been really resonating with the startup and emerging growth community. The PPP loan, Paycheck Protection Program loan, has obviously been the biggest one. That's been rolled out here over the past couple of months, and you've seen that obviously garner a lot of press probably in the marketplace. And there's been 2 tranches of money set aside by Treasury for that program, which is starting to dry up at this point in time. What that does is allow you to get access to capital equal to 2.5 times your historical monthly payroll, so that you can continue employing people and paying rent and things like that during some interim period here while there is a lot of tumult in the market. Obviously, a lot of the venture-backed companies have been dealing with what's called an affiliation issue there, meaning you have to be an under 500 person business to be eligible. So if you're affiliated with venture funds, you have a lot of portfolio companies, that was providing some consternation. I think most companies have worked through that at this point. And then there's also just generally some, need and access to liquidity tests that people have to meet that have caused some consternation. Currently, there's a deadline of May 14th to return the money. So should you think you're no longer eligible? So few companies are still grappling with that, and they've got a few more days, depending on when this video comes out, to decide to do that by May 14th, unless that gets extended again. But that's obviously been a big benefit. There's also some tax relief in there that I think's gotten less press coverage, but that'll be relevant to a lot of companies, especially companies that don't take the PPP loan. There's some payroll tax deferral credits that companies can use to defer payroll taxes, which is a nice way to save some cash. And there's some employee retention tax credits in there as well. Depending on your usage of the PPP loan or not, you may be eligible for those tax credits. So that's something worth talking to your tax and accounting providers about. And then the last thing that I think companies that are really constrained have used is there's been a ramp up in the availability of unemployment insurance. So to the extent you need to furlough or lay some people off, while we don't want it to come to that, obviously business reality may require it. And if you do that, your people are going to be immediately eligible for government assistance. So that's different. There's usually some waiting periods historically that you've got to have before you're eligible for unemployment insurance. So that's another way, especially the furlough aspect, if you want to think to bring people back in the future. You can use the government kind of as a source to pay your employees for some interim period of time based on unemployment insurance. So that's sort of the summary there, Benny.
Okay. What about what are the operational challenges that are top of mind for businesses as they plan for reopening? And you and I just talked about when reopening can be. But right now, whenever that is, like from your perspective, what are some operational challenges?
Yeah, I mean, so I think, the when, we'll put that question to the side. I think the how, let's assume it's sometime in the next few months for many businesses, especially ones that sort of have a need to be in close proximity to one another. I think workspace configuration, you've seen a lot of the real estate players come out with some workspace configuration ideas. And I think you're going to be dealing with both the physical workspace. So you got to work with your brokers, your real estate brokers and your landlords to potentially redesign the physical workspace, especially if you've got like a cubicle intensive business where you need to maybe move people farther away from each other, or shared workspaces where you need to move people, to the fringes of the building. So instead of having things maybe centrally located, you may see them more in the outskirts or corners or walls of the actual physical layout. And I think there's going to be some people configurations as well in terms of the traffic flow and to maintain social distancing. So I think you're going to see a lot of businesses design, hey, come in this door, it's an entrance only, and go left or go right to get to your office. And then if you want to come back around, you got to kind of go in a circle. So you got people moving in the same space so they can stay a few feet away from each other rather than sort of crisscrossing the office like they would in traditional times and bumping into each other at the coffee machine and in the hallway all the time. So I think those two things. And then from a legal perspective, what companies are going to be grappling with, and what a lot have already grappled with, especially the ones that have had to stay open, are really a combination of HR and privacy issues. You can ask much more intrusive questions now than you could historically of your workforce. So that might be questions about their whereabouts. Where was somebody recently traveled to? Who they've been in close proximity to? Do they take care of a relative that might be sick? Do they take care of a other child who might be sick? Anything like that you couldn't really ask from a labor perspective in the past. And then you're also obviously going to be dealing with privacy issues related to some medical records and medical history and things like that, especially if you're going to be implementing temperature checks at your workplace, or if you're a workplace that is like a manufacturing business, or in maybe food delivery or something like that. If you've got to have testing on a routine basis for your employees, obviously that's going to be a new regime, and people are going to have to make sure they're complying with doing that sort of stuff the right way under the new legal regime that'll be in place in each state to do that. I think there's a lot there.
So what's that gonna, when you say that, I'm thinking like, what's that gonna mean for people's privacy issues? Because like, are they gonna have to disclose like not only their temperatures or whatever it is that they're taking over there, but also like prior medical conditions?
Yeah, it's not about, I mean, it remains to be seen, I guess, is the generic answer. I mean, you can already do some of this stuff. I think states have mostly relaxed these requirements. So like right away in sort of mid to late March, when factories needed to stay open, most states relaxed the requirements and allowed employers to, for example, use temperature guns at the door to test for fevers as people were coming back to work on assembly lines and or be in big facilities. So you're going to have more of that, but obviously the technology behind that's going to continue to evolve. So whether that's, I don't think it's going to be blood draws on site, but it might be temperature checks. It might be, some skin pulls. It might be that you have to go to the doctor once a week and get your blood drawn. I mean, who knows what it's actually going to be? Maybe businesses that are big enough and have enough employees will have a nurse on site, right, to be doing some of this and administering it, because you certainly don't want your own people who are not educated on this medical stuff doing that. I think that's the new reality that everybody's going to be dealing with. And it combines itself with this workspace configuration, I think, in some sense, because you're just going to have a whole new way of showing up at the office and going home from the office and working at the office with your constituents. That's going to be different than what you've done historically.
Got it. Okay. So we have like a minute left, I think, but what do you, I always ask this to everyone, what's some advice that you have right now for business leaders as we're 2-3 months into COVID now?
Yeah, I think you got to be opportunistic. Like I think we talked about this before, Benny, like you think back to the last crisis a decade ago, coming out of the 2008, 2009 crisis, and there's opportunities, right? There's opportunities to build and grow your business for the next decade between 2021 and 2030 at this point. And the businesses that can take advantage of those opportunities, for better or worse, are the ones that are going to succeed, and the ones that can't aren't. And I know there's people that are constrained right now from a cash perspective, from a workforce perspective and whatever, but there's a lot of capital sitting on the sidelines that is going to be looking for value. So if you can find it, take it. Obviously, to the extent you're in a competitive landscape and you have enough cash or the wherewithal to get enough cash to maybe acquire a competitor or merge with a competitor, that's an opportunity to take. And then obviously there's a labor pool shortage going on right now, or excess going on right now, right? Where there's all these people on the sidelines that were employed and have been laid off. So pick those people up. If you can add good people to your team and you have money to do that, that's a great way to be opportunistic as well.
Okay, well, that sounds good. I'll put your contact info on this post on LinkedIn and on YouTube so that if people have questions, they can reach out to you. But I really appreciate your time. And Thanks again for all that you do. I know you've been doing a lot. So, and having two little kids at home isn't easy either. So thank you. I really